Okay, so should you paint really big? Should you paint really small? I see a lot of artists painting really small. I see some painting really big. What's better? Why do they do that? We're going to get to all of these answers in today's Paint Talk. Hi, welcome to Paint Talk, the weekly show where I answer your questions on oil painting. So if you have a question and you want it answered, leave it in the comments section of this video, and I just might answer it on next week's Paint Talk. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so you can get better faster. All right, first I'm going to talk about painting small. I'm going to talk about the advantages of painting small. And honestly, when I first started oil painting, I didn't paint very small. I was always painting very big. I was painting on canvas pads, big stretched canvas, and it wasn't until I started to plein air paint that I started to work on these small panels that you take out and go paint in plein air. That's what I'd seen everybody do, so I figured that's what I had to do to paint in plein air. And I struggled with it a lot. Now, a big reason I probably struggled also was that I didn't have much experience plein air painting, and plein air painting is probably the most difficult form of painting that there is, at least I think so. But I was very uncomfortable painting on such a small little panel. I felt like I was just closed in, and I just couldn't get small enough strokes, and the paint would build up, and it was just really messy, and I struggled with it a lot. But I realized that painting small like that was actually just highlighting my weaknesses. So I figured if I could get good at painting on these small panels, I would be able to turn a lot of my weaknesses into strengths. And that's what I did. I kept practicing and practicing until I got comfortable painting on these small panels, and I actually took it even further, and I enjoy now doing very small, very quick little 5x5-inch studies. So what I like a lot about these small little paintings is the immediacy of it. You know very quickly if something's working or not. It really forces you to only deal with the things that matter, which are shapes and values. You aren't really given the tool of detail to translate what you want. So you have to completely rely on nailing the color and nailing the value. And I promise you, nothing will improve your painting better, especially landscape painting, is if you're able to master doing these little 5x5 studies. Now, even if you are a painter out there that wants to paint big paintings with a lot of detail, you should still take the time to do these small studies, because the principles and the things that you have to be good at with painting really small are the same with painting really big. The concepts and what you need to know to paint a small painting is the exact same as a big painting. It's just with a big painting, you're just going to continue those ideas and those skills. The ability to see shapes. For a little tiny painting, you only have to see a few really big shapes to make it work. With a bigger painting, you're still gonna have to see those few big shapes, but you're just gonna keep going. You're gonna see shapes within those shapes and shapes within those shapes, and you're just gonna keep going and going and going as far as you like until you have the amount of detail that you want in a painting. Whenever I do a big landscape painting, I always do little thumbnail sketches or a little 9x12 study. I do this to work out any problems that I might come across and kind of see how things are going to look, maybe adjust the composition, get a better understanding of the values, figure out what I can change about it, what's not working, what is working. And it's great because these little thumbnail sketches, they don't take much time at all, and it's almost kind of like a little trial run of doing the landscape. So you're not stuck trying to work out and fix these big problems on a big canvas, because you can fix them when they're on a small little canvas and it's easy to fix and easy to see. But if you run into a lot of problems once you're in that big canvas, they're going to, just be a monster to deal with. I always think to myself, if I can't get my landscape to look good and work in these small little thumbnail sketches, it's not going to work really big. Just everything that's not working in these little sketches, it's going to be blown up, and it's just going to be even bigger of a problem. So make sure you solve all your problems and make sure it's working when it's this small before, you make it this big. Another great thing about doing small paintings is they're great for practice, because the rate of paintings that you can get done is going to drastically increase if you go down to doing smaller paintings, because smaller paintings take less time, therefore you'll be able to get through a lot of them. And I've talked about this in previous videos, but I really believe that in terms of practicing and seeing the most improvement over the shortest amount of time, I highly recommend doing paintings that take 1 to 3 sittings max. Because if you get stuck doing a really large painting for, a week or a couple weeks, you're stuck only learning the things that that painting can teach you. Every painting is going to teach you something different because you're going to be dealing with different things. So the more different paintings that you can get through, the more different problems you're going to come across and learn how to solve. It's so much easier to learn from small little studies that I actually started using them as my video tutorials on my Patreon page, and my students are liking it a lot. I'm finding that they're responding to them a lot better, because one, they're just a lot more simple. Everything's simplified, and it's teaching them the most important thing, I feel like, with oil painting, which is being able to break things down into its most simple shapes. That sounds easy, but it's very difficult. It takes a lot of time and a lot of training your eye to see things and get rid of detail. But doing these small studies that only take 45 minutes to an hour, it's easy to digest, it's easy to understand, it's easy to follow along. I feel a lot of my students are walking away from these tutorials having learned more in less time. I just feel that doing these small studies allows me to teach them what makes a painting work, opposed to just walking them through a painting, copying it stroke for stroke, trying to have an end product that's like what's on my canvas. You can learn that way, but I feel like a lot of times people get into copying mode instead of understanding mode. And when you do these small studies, it is so simple that it forces you to think and to understand what's going on instead of just trying to keep up and copy and stroke for stroke. Because I don't want to teach people how to just copy one of my paintings. I want to teach them things that they can use and understand, that they can implement on their own work. Now, another good thing with getting comfortable painting on smaller canvas is that if you ever want to do plein air painting, or if you do plein air painting or plan to do it in the future, it'll make your life a lot easier if you paint on smaller little panels. One, it just takes less time to paint, because when you're out there painting in plein air, things are moving. You have to paint rather quickly. It's got clouds moving, wind, all this stuff going on. So being able to cover a large area quicker is going to be able to help you. Also, just the sheer, physical nature of it, of having to lug out your gear, and if you're bringing out like a big canvas, it's just more weight, more stuff that you have to carry out on site to paint. So when I paint these studies, I will take a piece of canvas paper or a canvas panel, anything, and I'll actually tape it off into little squares or rectangles, whatever dimensions I want my little paintings to be. And it's fun. It's a fun little thing to have too. When you're done, you got these squares of all these little practice pieces on there. So don't think that you have to go out and buy a bunch of tiny little canvases. Take what you have and just break it down and do smaller pieces, and it's all right there together. And when I do these smaller paintings, I'm not really working like I normally do with like a thin wash first and then building to thicker and thicker paint. I'm starting out with pretty thick paint as it is. I mean, it'll get thicker as I go on, but I'm not worrying about layering or anything like that. I'm trying to mix up the right color the best I can and make a mark. I mean, I know I'm going to change things and alter things as I go, but it's really about being confident with the marks you're making, mixing up the right color, the right value, and saying a lot with the brush work that you do. I'm telling you, there are some landscape painters out there that do some really impressive things with these tiny little thumbnail landscape paintings. There's a guy named Josh Clare. I'll put a link to his Instagram in the description below, but he's just great, and he'll go out and he'll do a bunch of these little studies, and from you look at him far away and it's just everything's perfect. Like exactly what the scene is, and you get up close and it looks like it's done with 4 brush strokes, but it just shows you how much you can do when you know what you're doing with value and color. And just speaking from my experience, I saw a giant jump in my landscapes once I learned how to get them to work in a small little study. Like once I got that and realized the importance of that and made it work here, what I learned from that, it just really pushed me over a plateau that I was in with my landscapes. Okay, now I'm going to talk about painting big. And for a lot of you out there that have been painting small and you tend to paint on smaller things a lot, going big might be the answer for you. For example, like I know what I said about painting small and the advantages it has in painting plein air, but there is something to be said about painting on a very big canvas and how much it can open you up. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need like an actual physical shift in your process, whether that's, you know, how you paint, what you're painting on, subject matter, and, you know, painting really big. I know that when I went out and plein air paint, like after I've been plein air painting for a while and I was painting on these small little panels, once I did just randomly go out with like an 18 by 24 canvas, I found it very like liberating, and I felt like I could open up and I could paint really fast. And in a way, it helped me simplify things more because I knew I had to cover a lot of area in a short amount of time. So subconsciously, I just knew like I had no time to deal with detail or even to see it. It was no, I got to cover all this, I got to cover all that. And sometimes just working really big and just moving your brush around, it's going to open you up and make you paint more freely. And like I said earlier, if you're painting on only one size for a long time, it can be good to change it up. Like this happened to me with portraits. For a long time, I was painting portraits anywhere from like, you know, 9 by 12, 11 by 14, around that size. And then I got commissioned to do that really big Kobe Bryant portrait, which was on like a 36 by 48 inch canvas. And painting a portrait that size was a very different experience for me, because where before I was used to like kind of being able to construct an eye with a certain amount of brush strokes, now I was like having to spend, you know, entire like hour or two just on the eye and really, you know, understand what was happening. And it forced me to slow down and to, you know, because every, you know, you're building like a cheekbone or something and a plane of a face. It really makes you see what's going on and slowly craft the structure of the face. And it was just a very different experience for me. And it got me looking at portraiture in a different way. It kind of filled gaps that I had that I wasn't filling, painting them small. And, you know, I felt like I got better from doing that. And it took, you know, getting the commission to do it, because I probably wouldn't have done that on my own. I probably never would have painted a face that size, but painting it that big, you know, I learned something from it. So like I said, changing it up, change something up, change up the size, change up, you know, if you're painting one type of subject all the time, change up the subject that you're painting. Another thing about painting big is I feel like it naturally makes you paint thin to thick in a way, because you're having to cover a larger area. Therefore, the paint's going to get spread out more, and your initial layers are just going to naturally be thinner because you're trying to spread it out all over the canvas. So it's going to give you, I feel like, a wider range of thickness of paint to play around with on the canvas. It's going to take a little longer for the paint to get thick and built up, which is, you know, a big problem I feel like a lot of people have with painting on smaller panels, is that they get some paint on there and it's just a lot of paint on a small panel, and they get scared and intimidated by so much paint. It's, you know, if you're a beginner and you're not that familiar or good at maneuvering a lot of thick paint on your canvas, that can be tough. So going to a big canvas could help you in that sense if you have a lot of like too thick of paint problems on smaller canvases. So should you paint big? Should you paint small? I think it really depends on where you are with your work, what you're trying to do, what problems do you have, how have you been painting in the past. So hopefully you can take the information from this video and apply it to your work and try something new. Hopefully there are some answers in this video to problems that you have. If you have questions, please ask those in the comments section. If you like the video, if you like the channel, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It really helps the channel grow. If you're looking for full painting video tutorials, those are on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description below. And if you want to see what I paint on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero here telling you to go get painting. Well, look who made it to the end of the video. That must mean you really like it. May I suggest you hit that subscribe button? I would really appreciate it. Also, I highly suggest you check out this video as well. All right, I'm going to go now.